Let's get sweaty.
Hey guys, welcome to the Shenmue Dojo Show, episode 102, where we are celebrating 100 episodes of the Shenmue Dojo Show, but we're doing it 2 episodes late because chaos has just ensued. I am Matt Oliver, and with me from a far eastern land across the sea for the first time, I have James Brown back with me. How you doing, man?
I'm doing good, thanks, Matt. Yeah, same person, just a different time zone, I guess.
Yeah, it's for those of you who aren't aware, I'm sure most of you are, James has taken the big leap and is now living and working in Japan, which has meant that we've had to coordinate this and get things working, all of the rest of it behind the scenes. And I know, James, it's taken you a good sort of month, 6 weeks. You've been over there not long now, 6 weeks, which is crazy.
I'd say so, yeah, probably about 6 weeks. So we got there on the 8th or 9th of October. So yeah, 6 weeks sounds about right, but it's weird. It's like flown by, but also it feels like we've been here forever. So when I think back to like that first week, because we were staying in a hotel for like the first 3 days, that seems so long ago now. It's like that was like a holiday we did last year.
Yeah.
I guess just because we've like jam-packed so much and it's been so hectic, and I've had to get this sorted and that sorted, and we're still having to sort a lot of things out, to be honest. There's like a lot of I keep getting like letters through the post that say like, oh, you know, this hasn't connected properly, or you still need to pay this electric bill, and it's like it's scary because everything's in Japanese, so I'm having to sit down there with my translation on my phone, try and work out what I've got to do, and then log onto a website and then fill your name in katakana, and it's just a little bit chaotic because I made the mistake, and this could be helpful to someone in the future, of not checking what the people have inputted like my name and address in at the different places that I've had to go to. So like the ward that you have to register your address in, they said my name was like James Brown, but like they use like a zoo rather than a Sue, or the other way around or something. And then at the bank, they did it the other way around, and now it's like these are certain things that are clashing, which is causing a bit of a headache, but we'll get there in the end. It's just one of those teething aspects of moving to Japan so far. Other than that, though, I'm absolutely loving it. Yeah, couldn't be happier so far.
Excellent stuff. Massive move. And I think, to be fair, if anybody hasn't caught them already on your own YouTube channel, you've got a vlog series going, sort of you documenting your move over there, your first few weeks. Go and check that out. We'll put it in the YouTube description below, so you can go and check that out if you haven't seen that already. It's a great vlog. I think you're quite accustomed to those vlogs, especially because you did one in Gamescom as well. I think it works very well.
That was like the first vlog kind of thing we've done, right, where I took my camera, and actually I've the benefit of moving to Japan, not so much a benefit because of how much we've had to spend on stuff, but it's allowed me to sort of rebuy equipment. So we've sort of justified the purchases of like getting a new PC, so everything's running super smooth now. I've got like the latest PC that you can get, I guess. I mean, you probably know better than me, Matt, but seemed like a top of the range computer. Hopefully it lasts me another 15 years. Like my last one did.
Good PC there, and you've bought like cameras and all
sorts, webcams, this Shure microphone that every bloody podcaster on the internet uses. So hopefully I sound better. I'll have to see how I sound in the edit, but yeah, hopefully things have improved as well. Yeah,
sounds good. Awesome. So normally we do a news section here, but given that we're quite pressed for this episode, we're going to leave out the news. I'm sure people have seen the YouTube channel, the website posts, and all the rest of it, but I am going to make a very quick shout out that Shenmue turned 25 over in North America on the 7th of November, so after us recording this, and we bullied Sega into noticing it, which I'm always going to make a point of noting here. And depending on when this airs, then the PAL celebration will be on the 1st of December. So you may hear that before it or after, depending on when we get this sorted. But the aim of the episode today is very, very simple. We are celebrating, albeit 2 episodes late, our 100th episode. So we've been running this podcast for what must be 5 years now, which is insane, absolutely insane. And we've sort of totted it up before James moved to Japan, and we're like, bloody hell, we've done 100 episodes. How the hell's that even possible? Then we started going through the list, and we're like, okay, it all sort of adds up. So the idea of the show is very, very simple. We're going to start looking back at some of these shows, what they were about, our thoughts about them, maybe cringe a little bit at how both of us sounded, maybe. And we're just going to go through, chat about them a little bit, and just see how we get on for the next hour and a half. So it will be a tiny bit shorter than our usual Shenmue Dojo shows, but don't you worry, normal service will be resumed properly very shortly.
Yeah, we kind of consider this to be like a bonus show, so we'll get back to the main shows where we'll do like a big news section and get stuck in like a deep topic. But I just thought it would be good, now that we've reached this milestone, to sort of introduce maybe some shows that some people may have not heard if you've joined us recently, for example, and you've not delved into the backlog, as it were, just yet. Hopefully by us telling you about the backlog and some of the cool episodes that we did over the years, that maybe you might want to go back and check them out.
Yes. So what we've got in front of us here is our YouTube playlist with every episode in front of us, and we're just going to start through them and just give ourselves some thoughts, feelings, and see how we get on.
Mm-hmm.
James, I mean, it was your idea to start a podcast in the first place. Did you want to take the first one?
Was it my idea?
It was your idea.
Yeah, well, I'd love it, to be honest. I think it's probably one of the best things that we've done together, Matt, because it's not only has it allowed us to talk more on these shows about Shenmue and like build probably like a closer friendship relationship than we probably would have, because obviously we're talking to each other for hours upon end. You know, it's also, I suppose we got our roots from that show that when we went on Casey's podcast, The Sega Lounge, which is an incredible show. Would highly recommend people to subscribe to The Sega Lounge and subsequently listen to Radio Sega, which is where The Sega Lounge and our shows are hosted live. So if that interests you, there's like a wealth of amazing content out there. And then I'll give a quick shout out to TerraPlayer, which also hosts our shows. So yeah, there's a good eco structure out there, and obviously you can get them on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, or wherever you're listening to this show currently right now. You'll find the complete backlog. But yeah, so episode 1, we decided to do a little bit of a series overview. So obviously we're just trying to find our feet a little bit. This is probably where the microphones sound really crusty. We sound a bit awkward
Yeah,
because me and Matt probably only just started talking to each other, so there's a little bit of nervousness in there, I suppose, and to try and create a fulfilling show as well. A little bit of nerves, I would have imagined, if I went back and listened. But we also celebrated the series a little bit by having a few guests on. So we actually managed to get some, I guess, like a voice note from people like Ryan Payton, Bloodhound Town, who made the Dreams Shenmue and VR game. Awesome little game on the PS4 back in the day. We had a voice note from Eric Kelso, Adam Koralik, Corey Marshall, Casey himself from the Sega Lounge, so that was nice to get him on, and also Cedric Biscay, who we were having a lot of talks with back in those days, right, Matt?
Yeah, absolutely. And in Shenmue Dojo show tradition, it was over 2 hours. So,
and it was a Christmas show, I guess, as well. So there's probably a lot of Christmas theming, and I don't know if I did any jokes for this show, but typically our Christmas themed shows, we have a lot of fun. And I think this was quite a fun episode from memory.
It was. I remember thinking it was a good one. Good starting point, actually, for us. And as you said earlier, I think we wouldn't have even sort of taken the dive had we not gone on Sega Lounge, actually. And then we sort of thought, actually, let's take the dive. And it was your idea to take the dive in on it, which, and then 102 episodes later, here we are.
Yeah, I think it just made us feel like we could do something like this, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm. So then we come into sort of, I guess, a what do I want to call, like an offshoot of the podcast, but it all comes together, I guess, under the same umbrella. I started an interview series around the time. So for the website Shenmue Dojo turning 20, believe it or not, which was insane, I got an interview with Ryan Payton. It was my first ever interview, and I'm interviewing Ryan Payton, who's like head of camouflage and now in the games industry. He's done some real big VR stuff. Ryan's brilliant. I've got a lot of time for Ryan. He's done nothing but wonders for this website and wonders for Shenmue behind the scenes. A lot that people won't know and probably will never know, but is a massive fan and really wants the series to progress. And he gave me a good hour of his time to talk about the development of Shenmue 3, which I thought was very interesting. So this is where it all sort of came out that they had to rebuild all the systems. It took them vast majority of development time to build the systems. They had no source code from Sega, no real help from Sega. And there was a lot of juicy stuff in this show that actually I think put the development of Shenmue 3 in a different light, to the point that I still end up having to reference it even now. But it was the first, I think, real insight into the development of Shenmue 3. First proper behind the scenes, what actually happened. And while there was certainly some things in there that Ryan and Yu Suzuki disagreed on and on all the rest of it, broadly you can see why Shenmue 3 ended up the way it did. I mean, James, any thoughts?
Yeah, I completely agree. I thought this was a really good interview, and considering it was like the first interview that you did, Matt, you completely smashed it. Very impressed actually with the style of interviewing that you did. You make people feel very comfortable when you're talking to them, and very on point questioning, etc. So I think this little series of interviews that you did, and you actually ended up interviewing Ryan 3 times in this little short period, and you got some nice little tidbits and whatnot of information out of that. So maybe a lot of people in 2025 might not realize that Ryan Payton had such a big role in shaping Shenmue 3. He was obviously part of the Kickstarter. He had a little video talking about what Shenmue means to him, etc. on that Kickstarter page. So yeah, if you're interested, definitely check this out, because it does reveal some interesting behind the scenes bits and bobs about Shenmue 3 that you may not know about unless you heard the show, of course.
Yeah, and again, as I say, I still reference it even now, which I think is testament to the stuff we managed to get out of it. And I was a nervous wreck doing that. Believe it or not, I did it from my kitchen.
Oh wow, places. I didn't realise that.
Did it from my kitchen.
You've got a nice kitchen though. You've got kind of like when you go into a restaurant and there's like a booth table.
Yeah,
there's like a table and like a sort of a long type of seat type of deal. So I could imagine it being quite comfortable to do there, actually.
It was all right. I think we were having work done on the house, so I didn't have any office space for my computer, and everything at the time was downstairs, and it sounded all right. Actually, I was quite impressed. Anyway, we'll shift on. Next interview I did was Bloodhound Town. So this is the guy who was working on Dobuita and the Dojo in Dreams on PS4. I talked to him for about an hour and a half going through that project, which was really cool. I don't think it ever got finished though, unfortunately, but is something that I did a playthrough on as well a bit later on, which was cool. Then next up was the interview with Cedric Biscay. Again, another real, I'm going to sound really arrogant here, but I'm really proud of it.
Yeah,
that we got Cedric on the show. And this was then, again, talking about the insights into Shenmue 3, the development, the things that went on behind the scenes, but also confirmation at this point in time they were pitching Shenmue 4. So something around Shenmue 4 existed. This came out at the end of 2021, if my memory serves me correctly. It was around Christmas time.
It says 2020 when we uploaded it, Matt.
2020, so, bloody hell, even later, Christ.
Yeah, so this,
even later,
like you say, this was
back.
This is probably one of like the most prominent interviews at the time for Shenmue 4 news in a way, because it was the first time hearing that they were pitching Shenmue 4, and it got us really excited for probably like the next 2 years, thinking that
something's going on.
Yeah, we could always reference back to this particular part of the interview where Cedric said that they had a little bit of Shenmue 4 content that they were showing and trying to get a publisher. So behind the scenes, we thought things might have been moving, but then if you remember, Matt, it was also around the sort of COVID period when they were trying to pitch. So things sort of fell short, I think, at that time.
They did. And I know an offer was made. It was talked about on the forums. I'm guessing off that pitching round from what I understand, but I think it was a lowball offer and they said no to it, which I can understand, because if it's way, way lower, that isn't going to allow you to do anything that you want to do. I can understand the point of turning it down. But again, Cedric, very much like Ryan, has done a lot for the series. Cedric, even to this day, interacts with us, talks to us. I mean, you sent him Shenmue World magazines. He's always very thankful for it. And he still wants a Shenmue 4, doesn't he? I mean, I think he's pushing as hard as anyone can behind the scenes. So we'll just have to see where we end up. But again, I'm really proud of that one, because it was, like you say, a real insight and the first sort of nibble of Shenmue 4 news that we were getting. And then, as you say, James, I did 2 other interviews with Ryan, which we've touched on already, so I'll leave those there. But then we come on to episode 2 of the mainline show, James.
Yeah, so what we on now? We're like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So this is technically the 7th episode, and we were discussing the Shenmue 3 Kickstarter as a whole. So we actually... is this the one where we went through all of the updates, like in chronological order? Or
we did a series on that one. We went through all of them. This was, I think, a broad explanation.
I think, actually, wasn't this the one where we went through the page and just read the details on the main page and then gave our theories and what we thought about, and maybe we looked at the rewards and stuff?
That sound about right. I'm just having a quick look of it.
Yeah, I think that's what this show was. It's been that long ago, I can't remember. And with it being episode 2, I think we would have gone in great detail on the Kickstarter page.
Just having a
unfortunately,
quick read of the
it looks like...
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, I was going to say, unfortunately, it looks like I haven't done as many timestamps as I do today. So I might have provided a little bit more information on the timestamps. But just skipping through some of the video here, I can see that we were looking at some of the rewards. And yeah, definitely we were talking about all of the Kickstarter page, like the sort of the funding goals, what was unlocked, what didn't get unlocked. And just a nice, well-rounded discussion of the Kickstarter.
Yeah, and I think sort of maybe put some myths to bed around some of the Kickstarter. I know later on we really went into the nitty-gritty of the Kickstarter and really sort of set those myths on fire and threw them in a bin. But so again, really good. I quite enjoyed it, and you can tell actually going for a bit of a clickbaity thumbnail there, but you know what, it has to be done.
That's true. I feel like the quality of the thumbnails have improved as we've been going on
over time. Definitely.
Like this, like the first episode, the second episode, maybe even the first 3 or 4. I think Shensun made for us, right? So,
yeah,
sort of a shout out to Shensun for getting some of those initial sort of nice looking thumbnails for us to kickstart the show. I did notice this was like one episode where I probably got even poorer audio quality of the mic. So
Yeah, you made a note
I
in the
can't remember
comment
what
of the
happened.
description. I don't know.
Yeah, whether or not it was one of those things where I was using my MacBook and I didn't click to use the microphone and I ended up using like my MacBook's mic potentially. So it
Quite
sounds a little
possibly.
bit awkward perhaps. So this episode in particular might sound pretty bad compared to what you're listening to now, but not sure.
Yeah, it's good all the same. And then we come on to a couple more interviews that I did that year. So first off, I can't even talk. Interviewed Andrew Dickinson, who wrote the Dreamcast Years book, Dreamcast Years 1 and 2. I think also went to work for Lost in Cult, and I think is doing something else game related these days. Both of us, I think, have met Andrew in person as well. He was at, I think, Eurogamer one year that we bumped into him as well. But Andrew,
He
massive
was, yeah, you're
Shenmue
right.
fan. Massive Dreamcast fan. Has been around the Dreamcast community for a long time. So that was a sit down chat around how discovering Shenmue, Dreamcast years, and everything in between that as well. And then another one I did again. One of my sort of personal favourites. I had the pleasure of interviewing Michael Huber for an hour and a half. It's the first interaction I'd ever had with him in terms of doing this website and everything else. We talked his reaction to Shenmue 3. But to be honest, it just turned into a massive geek out about Shenmue. And it was brilliant. I enjoyed every second of it. I've met Michael Huber in person 3 times now since.
Nice.
Sound bloke, so much time for him. Very much wants the best for the series and will drop it in anywhere and everywhere that he can on Easy Allies. I love that. Because he's using his platform where he can just to keep the name out there, and he's got a big platform, much bigger than that I think we do. So seeing that passion, seeing that, and just having a geek out for an hour and a half was amazing, and I love that interview.
That is a particularly good interview, Matt, because you end up talking through like literally the storyline of both two games, and maybe even the third. Actually, do you talk about the third a little bit as well?
I think so. Yeah,
and some of like the key moments in the games, and hearing Huber's sort of favorite moments in the games as well. Yeah, really good show that.
Yeah, brilliant. And then we come on to episode 3 of the mainline show. So Shenmue 3 Bailu Village story walkthrough and overview discussions. So we sat down here. I'm just looking at description to basically go through the entirety of the story for the Bailu Village section of Shenmue 3, and we're using a couple of online guides for it as well. But James, do you want to dive in?
Yeah, this is coming back to me now. I kind of forgot that we did this, but we sort of did 2 shows. I think we did the Niawu section like the season after this, but in the first season of the show, we covered Bailu Village and went through all the story beats, had a little bit of a discussion, and it kind of actually helped to strengthen the story somewhat as we were like talking about each of the key moments. Obviously, people know that Shenmue 3 didn't have the most intense story content compared to the first 2 games,
absolutely.
But actually going through it in this guide, I feel like we had a little bit more appreciation at the end for what story content was there.
Yeah, I would agree with that, and actually what they were trying to achieve with it, if sometimes the execution was potentially a little bit lacking. But again, I think as well, when you listen to it, you can hear our confidence is better. Actually, we start sounding a bit more like we know what we're doing.
That's a good way of putting it, yeah.
So yeah, that's, again, real nice in-depth dive there, again around the 2 hour mark, so definitely within our traditions of having particularly long shows. Then coming on, I did an interview with Mike Reinhardt, who was a lead beta tester at Sega America for Shenmue, the original game. So we talked about all the beta testing for the Dreamcast game, some little secrets and bits and pieces that weren't known. For example, I didn't know that the beta team also worked with Primer on the first Primer guide for Shenmue 1. So they literally worked with them step on that, which was really cool.
Yeah.
And also there's some other little nuggets of information in there, like they had the passport running offline, for example, to test it, which is something I didn't know. So there's some bits and pieces that are pretty cool in there. Mike again stays in touch with the website and us to this day, which is awesome. Then next up, I interview Corey Marshall in a 2-hour 20 epic. We talk about Corey's career, recording for Shenmue 1, recording for Shenmue 2, the hiatus, Shenmue 3, and much, much more. Besides it, a great interview. I mean, Corey and I just chatted and didn't realise the time. So it was one of those that just went on, but in a good way, and I had a great time. And Corey, I know he's not as active on social media as he was, is very much still a friend of the website, and I'm sure, hopefully, we'll be back for a Shenmue 4, but we'll have to see, won't we?
Yeah, agreed. It's nice, Corey, because he really does take his time with people, doesn't he? So in a way, towards the end of there, it's not like he's trying to end the conversation. He's like, he probably would have carried on for another hour.
Yeah.
He's got a lot of time for Shenmue fans.
Yeah, absolutely. And then we're back onto a mainline episode 4, Those Burning Questions.
Wow, this was a good one.
Yeah, I remember this being your idea, James, as well. And actually, you can see already the timestamps are coming in here. There's a lot more timestamps in here.
Yeah, so was this the one we did with Peter?
I can't remember. It doesn't say so in the description.
So in the description, but I feel like we went through all the story beats with Peter. So this could be the one that and isn't this, we got quite a lot of views on this one, or is there another
1,000? I know that we did a Shenmue 3 review with Peter as well. So that might be what you're thinking.
Might be the prospects of Shenmue 4, maybe.
It could
be the one a little bit later.
We'll get to that.
Yeah, so this one, we went through all of the story points that still needed a conclusion, right? So
yeah,
I know we kind of covered this a little bit when we were talking about, if you remember, RG28, whatever his name is, in response to that. So that's like a later episode where we went through like how much story still needs to be told. But this is a really good episode because we actually go a lot more in depth into each of these story aspects. So we talk about Iwao Hazuki and Zhao Sunming's relationship, Ziming and Shuing, Master Baihu, the mirrors, treasure, Chi Munster,
everything,
mysterious scroll, Shenhua's parents, the powers, the Shenmue tree, Ziyu and Da, the basement items, some of the interesting things there, Shenhua's house items, some of the interesting things there, and then some of Shenmue 3's plot points as well that still need a conclusion to. So if anyone ever says like Shenmue could have finished with the third game, and why didn't Ryo just beat Landy and that was it, that would have been the end of it, it's because there's all these other story beats that have already been created in the first 2 games that still need a resolution. So yeah, we're definitely on for at least Shenmue 4, potentially Shenmue 5 to get all these mysteries solved.
And there's a lot of them as well, so that's a good 3-hour deep dive there where we went for it on that one. So
one of my favorites, actually. Yeah,
it's really good. It's really cool. Then next up, I had another interview. I interviewed Ezra Krabe, who was, or still is actually, IGN Japan, lives over in Japan. Massive Shenmue fan, to the point where Shenmue has very much influenced his life. It influenced him moving to Japan. It influenced him studying martial arts. There was so much there as well. And Ezra's sound, he's a real big friend of the community. And very much, if he ever gets the opportunity to interview Suzuki, he's always asking about Shenmue and Shenmue 3 at the time, Shenmue 4. And I've got a lot of time for Ezra. So that was a cool interview. I think Peter put me in touch with him actually at the time.
Nice.
If I remember rightly.
That's good.
So that was cool as well. And then I guess one of my favourite episodes is one of the earlier ones. We then go episode 5, exploring the timeline. Now this was the Team U timeline of events that led up to the Shenmue 3 announcement and the eventual release of Shenmue 3 itself. That timeline is gold. Absolute gold, isn't it? We need to get the Team U website back online, but
that's true.
That's a conversation for another day when we get some time. We're all just hectically busy, but we just go through this timeline step by step, and man, how much gold is in there.
It's ridiculous. Yeah, so originally created by James Hamill and other few team members, I'm sure, but just an incredible website to begin with, and the series of events that literally led to like the Shenmue 3 announcement, and then the continuation of the campaign, and what Team U was doing at the time alongside like other community groups to sort of propel Shenmue back into mainstream media, etc. So real testament to the work that Team U did, and hopefully this episode did it justice, that we kind of went through each of the bits of the timeline day by day, month by month, year by year, until we reached the tail end of the timeline there, up until Shenmue 3's release and beyond. Just some really cool moments there. Obviously, it covered even the announcement of Shenmue 1 and 2, that sort of stuff.
Just looking as well, I've clicked into the video and I'm straight onto the Kitsuko article, literally by accident.
No way.
So it's all in here. Like, all this stuff is in here. Like, I'm just scrolling through, just having a quick look at the video, and yeah, like, man, there's so much. You've got like the community collages. You've got Phil Spencer talking about Save Shenmue. You've got, man almighty, this is like, if you just want a detailed recollection of events, this is the best place to go. That timeline is absolute gold. I love it.
Agreed.
Then sort of coming on some interviews again. So I think I did three of them, although there's a 3.5 there, I guess, as well. So I interviewed Rio X, who does the Shenmue synthwave stuff. We had a good hour and a half conversation talking about Shenmue music and how it all sort of comes together. And Rio X is still very active now. We've both met him in person. I think James, he's in Japan, isn't he, at the moment?
I think he is in Japan at the moment, yeah. I was in talks to meet him, actually, but then it completely slipped my mind. And then I saw his post the other day where he was saying, like, I finally made the dream of actually visiting Dobuta Street, and like, I was like, oh man, I was meant to message him back, because I probably would have met him down there.
Yeah, it would have made sense.
I'm sure he'll come back to Japan at some point.
Yeah, I'm sure he will. And then next up, Richard Cartledge, again, another Shenmue community member who's very, very talented with his music. People would have heard his reconceptualization of the original Shenmue tracks, sort of modernized them a bit, and his own take on them. I know he's put music into Joe and George's games before. He's contributed music to other fan projects over the years as well. Great guy, always in and around our streams as well, and very, very talented. So go and check that out if you haven't already. Then I guess one that got probably less views than I thought it would do, but again, a bit of a golden nugget in terms of the interview that I got. So I interviewed Bill Black. So for people who don't wonder who he is, he was the voiceover director for the English dub of Shenmue 3. And I sat down with him for a good hour to go through the recording process, the casting process, including what happened about Eric Calso. And I know behind the scenes, Bill and Eric spoke and got in touch and had conversations around that. Essentially, that Bill wasn't aware of the strength of, I guess, people wanting Eric to come back. But it was something that was touched on in this interview. And I know he said he was doing Shenmue 4. Eric would be probably the first person he calls outside of Corey to go and do it, which was great. And Bill was very candid, very upfront. It was very kind to give us some behind the scenes footage as well, which we released on the website and the YouTube channel, which Jibby put together for us, which was great. And years later, Bill lost all of that. But I'd backed it all up on my 1,000,001 backups that I keep these days. So he put a tweet out going, oh, I haven't got any of this. I've lost it all. I don't know what to do with it. So I dropped him a message. I've got it all. It's all on my computer. Do you want it? So I sent it back to him, and he was really grateful for that.
See, that's kind of what the dojo does well, right? It's like archiving as much as we can. So if someone sends us something like that, we make sure it's backed up, like you say, in like a million different places. And these things easily get lost. Like your computer might malfunction, or you move house or something, and you can't take your computer with you, type of thing. Or there's loads of a series of events, so you could just lose stuff quite easily like that. Especially with data, I really worry about like photographs and stuff. I've got my daughter when she was younger, because obviously back in the day, and I know you can still do it, where you can get them printed out, but we're just living in that sort of era where you just take a quick photo on your phone and forget about it. And then in 10 years' time, how many of those photos have you actually backed up, and how many have survived? Because like recently, my phone just decided to stop working, so I had to get a new phone, which means like, unless you're paying obscene amounts of money to like Apple for the iCloud or whatever, a lot of your videos and photographs just kind of just get lost over the years, and that's a big concern for me. Watching my daughter grow, I wanted to be able to look back at some of the things that she was doing when she was 1, 2, or how she looked when she was younger. We're living in a different era where you haven't really got your mum to compile a photo album, like a physical photo album, anymore.
Yeah, which it's sad, isn't it, in that respect? But at the same time, it's a sign of the times, isn't it, these days? Which sucks, but it's hard, isn't it, when you look at that sort of thing? And speaking, I guess, of things that were lost to the sands of time, sort of. Bill Black, I did a director's cut, so I actually recorded an interview prior to the interview I released, but the sound quality was shocking. So we decided to re-record it, but I did re-release some of the questions that we didn't cover in the main interview as well, so that's just worth touching on.
Nice.
And then we're on to episode 6, Prospects of Shenmue 4.
This was the one that Peter joined us for, and this is one of my favorites. I think this is, if you're going to go back and listen to one of our first sort of shows, I think this is a really, really good one to do, because so at the time, Shenmue the anime was like quite new, so we discuss a little bit about the animation. We each give our own little individual reviews of Shenmue 3, so it was nice to sort of get Peter's opinion on that. At this point, Peter had sort of kind of gone on a little bit of a hiatus, I guess, so it was nice to get him on the show to discuss the way he remembered playing Shenmue 3. Obviously, this is a couple of years on from release, but he streamed his playthrough, or at least did like a Let's Play series on
it was a Let's Play, wasn't it?
Yeah. So it was nice to get his sort of opinion on the game a couple of years on, and then we went into a really great discussion about Shenmue 4 at the time and our thoughts and feelings. And I kind of remember, I think Peter said, if there was no news by the end of next year, which would have been 2022 at that point, he would start to get concerned. And now obviously we're here at the end of 2025. So it's very typical Shenmue, right, to still be waiting.
Little nuggets have obviously changed over time, hasn't we? Like Shenmue 3 Enhanced and the anime and things like that have sort of pushed that out and pushed that out. Stuff has continually happened. Do you know what? It's something that actually look at that show and go, that's probably something we want to revisit now at some point, and go, Prospects of Shenmue 4 in 2026 or whatever.
That is a good point, yeah. So you can go back 5 years and sort of have this sort of bottle of the way that we were thinking or feeling at that era, and then we can redo it and update it.
So that'd be good. Again, comes in at the 3-hour mark as well, but that's a real good 3-hour conversation. Really, really good one, and one of the higher viewing ones we did actually as well, believe it or not. I'm not surprised with it. Shenmue 4, Peter's on the show as well. I think it all just sort of transpired together to be a very sort of nice show which came together. Then followed up, I had 2 interviews. So the first one, I interviewed Gang Entertainment. So for those of you who don't know who Gang Entertainment are, they were the guys responsible for doing the Shenmue spoofs of basically taking a tongue-in-cheek look at the original games, and we all remember reviewing them through the sort of the little letterboxing style on the old forums. Because they
downloaded them in like 50 parts.
And all the rest of it. And what they ended up doing was, I think they put a Blu-ray together for Shenmue World?
Yeah, so I think they did do DVDs back in the day, but then they decided to sort of compile all 3, create their own menu for the Blu-ray, which was cool, and then also included your interview with them as like a bonus feature. So that was awesome. So if you did pick up Shenmue World Issue 2, you would have got this nice Blu-ray included of all 3 films.
Brilliant. And then followed up very shortly after that, I did an interview with Joe and George Kitchen. Now George will probably shoot me for not saying his name first, but there we go. So this is when they just sort of started coming out doing their own sort of Shenmue-inspired music. They bought all the equipment from back in the day, not the exact equipment that was in Sega, but very, very similar, if not the same, but from different sources, and started making their own Shenmue music. And they were putting out regular, and even still are. I mean, George is still working on his fan game. Obviously, Dream Saturn's due out at the end of the year, and Reclaiming the Path is still under work at the moment. But they're both working on those games, but they were consistently putting music out for a good few months. So I managed to get them both on the show and talk through the music, talk through the inspirations and how it all comes together. Great show, and it was interesting to see like how their songs came from a concept to writing the final product. And George was very kind to sort of play me through things as he was making them, which again made for a really cool interview. Really, really good, and probably the start of us becoming quite friendly with both of them. I mean, I met Joe in Monaco in 2019, had a few conversations with him, but I think that was sort of the door opening for us sort of being on really good sort of friendly terms with them, to the point of like if they were over in the UK, I'd meet up with them, sort of thing.
Definitely, yeah.
So that's cool. And I know George comes over to, and Joe go over to Japan quite regularly. I'm sure they'd let you know if they were over there as well.
Yeah, looking forward to that if they do. Definitely let us know if you're listening to this, George and Joe. There you go. I'll say George first for you.
There you go. There you go.
Nice.
And then coming on episode 7, anime anticipation. So the anime came out of bloody nowhere, and we had to do a show about it.
Well, yeah, by the looks of it, I think we will be not aware of the. Well, we talked a little bit about the anime with Peter on the previous show, but yeah, this was during we saw. I think we got a panel somewhere, like on Crunchyroll panel, maybe, in a bit of a trailer. So it looks like we broke down the trailer frame by frame.
That's it.
And we also discussed everything that we learned from the panel with Yu Suzuki, Chikara Sakurai, whatever his name was, and some of the other members of the team back then, which is such a shame to think about, like looking back on it now, that we're not getting any more anime. We didn't get a season 2, but it looks like they put a lot of time and effort into the series, and like especially with this panel, seeing the people involved, it's like, where's that just gone? Do you know what I mean? Like, why are we not still looking forward to a season 2 or more anime or something? I don't know. It's a shame, really.
I'm just going to make a point here about this. I'm going through the video a little bit because I'm scrolling through the videos as we sort of go, and we've got a new section at the end of this. And I will say, actually, I think our video editing and our audio editing is night and day at this point. I think we've clearly found our groove.
Yeah,
with what we're doing, which at least I think so. People might tell me differently, but that's fair enough. And I've got at the end of this the 110 Industries interview with Yu Suzuki.
Oh, really? Is that part of the news? Yeah,
that's part of the news.
So it's interesting. Different time period then, eh?
Very different time period. Well, yeah, that comes up later, I'm sure. Then I've got here 2 interviews that I did again. So first up, I interviewed Josh Fairhurst from Limited Run Games. Josh is a massive Shenmue fan. Has done loads of Shenmue merch over the years. He's done the 2 Shenmue 3 collector's editions that came out for the original release. Has also been recently doing the Shenmue merch over at Limited Run Games. I'm still waiting on mine. I sound really bitter about it. I'm not. I'm happy to wait. But mine won't be here till February 26th. But Josh is a massive Shenmue fan. Again, friend of the website, has been very good to us behind the scenes. And again, I think puts Shenmue at the heart of everything. And this before he tweeted out about making Shenmue 5. So we'll just have to see where we're at there with that one and whether that happens or not if we get 4. And then following that, I interviewed John Linneman of Digital Foundry fame, believe it or not. One of the bigger gets that I got on the show, especially now with Digital Foundry sort of notoriety. John, massive Shenmue fan. We talk Shenmue, talk about Digital Foundry and everything else in between as well. I'd love to have John back on the show at some point.
Seems like a really nice guy.
Yeah, absolute really sound, and knows his stuff. Really knows his stuff. So there we go. And then we come on to episode 8, which is Niao's story overview. So quite a way afterwards, a 2.5 hour show, James.
Yeah, I don't know if we planned it like this, but it looks like this was like the last episode of the season at the time, the season 1.
Yeah.
So maybe we did decide to come back to the Niao side of things at the end of the season. Again, I just remember it being a really good show. We followed the same walkthroughs that we used in the previous the Bailu Village side of things, and we just went through the story beats in the Niao section all the way to like the cliffhanger ending. And just probably had a real deep dive into some of those story moments and the ending. And if that interests you at all, or perhaps you haven't played Shenmue 3 since release and you want like a kind of a catch up somewhat, a abridged version, maybe, if you can call like 2-3 hour episodes abridged. But yeah, definitely check that out.
Brilliant. And then we come on to our 2021 Christmas special. So season 2, episode 0, we put this in. So this is where you definitely started the Christmas cracker jokes here, which I thought was good fun. And we had some guest messages. So Titch did a message. Titch, for those of you who aren't aware, was she did her own streaming series of Shenmue 1 and Shenmue 2 on her own channel, and then came onto the dojo and streamed for us. Brilliant. I had a lot of time for Titch as well. Unfortunately, I haven't heard from her from a long time. Things that happened behind the scenes, wasn't it?
Yeah, I just love like some of the interactions we did with Titch over the years. Like you say, her streaming series was great. Some of the shows that we do with her later are great. And then, it's a real shame, actually. I don't know. Would be nice to hear from her.
It would. Hopefully, wherever you are, you're doing well and everything's all okay. Because, Titch was great and had a lot of time for her. Also, Joe and George did a message. KC did a message. And there's, I think, 6 Christmas cracker jokes in there. So we definitely went down the Christmas route with that one, which was cool. And it's under 2 hours, which was quite good for us.
Yeah, maybe a little bit cringy back to hear them back now. I'm not sure some of those jokes.
Sod it. It's Christmas. You're allowed to. Right, then we come on to the proper season 2 in its fullest here. Episode 1 is Anime Madness. So this is in the lead up to, we have a release date at this point for the anime, and we're leading into it. So we start discussing all our thoughts, feelings, what we want from the anime, and more besides. I mean, James, anything to add to that?
Yeah, well, it looks like we react and broke down both the 2 trailers that we've had at this point and the press release. So we're extremely close to episode 1 of the anime launching, I think, at this point. So I think this probably has me and you sounding like really, really excited potentially for like some brand new Shenmue content. So yeah, if you want to hear what it was like prior to the release of Shenmue the anime and what 2 people were thinking at the time, probably a good episode to listen back to.
Awesome episode there. Then we did a little bonus show here. Again, leading into the anime, we thought it'd be a good idea to do Shenmue who, what, why, who, what, where, and why. Basically, for newcomers to the series, to give them an idea of what Shenmue was, where it's all come from, and everything else in between. We did a short 25-minute show there. I won't sit on that too much. Then, last up, before we get into the anime stuff, is I did an interview with Magnus Garcia. So Magnus is a YouTuber, big Shenmue fan, really, really passionate, and actually has some very different, I say different in the nicest possible way, takes on Shenmue and how things could go forward. Very insightful, Magnus is actually, and offers a very good, thought-provoking, different perspective on the series, in my view.
Yeah, great.
So that's that one. And then we come on to the anime portion. Now, for those of you who remember this, and James and I certainly do, I think I got PTSD from it a little bit. James and I went weekly. So for those of you who remember, the anime was aired weekly. So 13 episodes was aired weekly. So what we ended up doing was streaming every week on the Sunday, reacting to the show live, so we wouldn't watch it when everybody else did.
That's true. We did that, didn't we? So we waited and watched it live.
Yeah, so we did that. And then immediately afterwards, we record the podcast and get a podcast out that week to do it all. And we did that for 13 weeks, which was mental. So we go through every episode, we recap every episode, what happened, where it could lead to, and all the rest of it there. On top of that, I got the pleasure of interviewing Joe Daniels, who was the voice of Dol Neo, Natalie Real, who was the voice for Shenhua, and I also interviewed Jeremy G, who's the voice actor for Guizhang, and James Marler, who was the voice actor for Goro, which we ended up doing something like 16, 17 episodes on the anime in total. But interspersed in all of that, I interviewed Adam Scipione as well, believe it or not, right in the middle of that. And that was talking about the release of A Gamer's Journey, and it had finally been completed, and they were finishing things up in there as well. And that was in the midst of, I think, the rewards being sent out and the Blu-rays, etc., going out, which was brilliant. So that touched on that as well. Then, James, we come on to season 2, episode 15. So you can see how many episodes we did for the anime there. Yeah. Media Meltdown. I love this thumbnail.
That's true. That is a good thumbnail. Just before we get into this, I just want to give a quick mention to the anime series. So if you think back, Matt, obviously the first 5 episodes we covered of the anime we did do with Titch.
We did, yes.
So
we did.
She was on the show for those. And also, behind the scenes, she did write some notes for us. So as we were
yeah,
watching
fair point.
live, if you remember, throughout the day, she was making like an insane list of notes so that when we got to the podcast immediately after the live stream, we had like the summary of events of that episode. So a massive shout out for that, because without that, for each of these anime episodes, I don't think we could have got through that.
And actually, you just prompted a thought. Hannah picked them up when Titch
That's true.
had to
Yeah.
go off, didn't she? So again,
Yeah.
thank you to both of you there, because that was mental. But yes, Media Meltdown, James.
Yeah, Media Meltdown. So this is a really good episode, actually, if you want to learn about all of the things that people have said over the years that were completely infactual.
Yes.
And we sort of break down, I don't know, like sort of what the mindset of these people
lies,
is.
wasn't
Yeah,
it?
these lies.
And just sitting there and disproving all of it. So we
Mm.
went through all the sort of common misconceptions and basically went, nope. In a nutshell, the thumbnail got me. I was surprised actually that we didn't generate more outrage with it.
That's true. Yeah, I guess because no one can complain about straight facts, can they? How can you argue about that?
No, but someone will.
Yeah.
Right, and then we move on to 2 interviews. This one, I'm up there. I think it was one of my proudest interviews. It was an exclusive. It was the only interview we got around Shenmue the animation, behind the scenes, and everything else. I had the pleasure of interviewing Jason DeMarco, who was the Shenmue anime executive producer from Adult Swim. Jason DeMarco was also very much the creator of Toonami, if anybody remembers that back in the day. So all the anime that came over on that, he was very much responsible for it. And we talked through how the anime came to be, the production style, why they made certain decisions around the music, around the voice actors and things like that. And at this point in time, believe it or not, obviously things change very quickly, the Warner Brothers Discovery merger was going, and he was fairly confident, because Shenmue the animation outperformed everything they'd released that year, that we were going to get a season 2. He was like, yeah, I'm pretty confident on this. We were really happy with it. Suffice to say, that did not happen.
Already greenlit.
Near enough. It sounded like it, didn't it?
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
Which was mad. Obviously, that didn't happen. But I point to this interview now and again when people go, oh, the anime failed. I go, no, it didn't. Listen to this.
Mm-hmm.
And there we go. Then followed up, I interviewed Matt Reynolds, who was Eurogamer managing editor at the time. He wrote the Eurogamer guides for all the sort of games over there at the time. Big Shenmue fan, and also had done a video series on the hard to miss things in Shenmue, which was a cool video that he put together. I think he did a series of about 3 or 4 of them actually of the first game, and still in touch with us even to this day, which is cool. Then we come on to season 2, episode 16, the catch up. So it'd been quite a while. I think we needed to lie down after the anime.
I think so. Yeah, I think did we have a little bit of delay between episodes, and there was a lot of news to cover. So we just thought, well, we'll just do like one big news episode,
a news dump.
Yeah, and it looks like we were talking about Air Twister as well.
Oh God, yeah, flipping heck. And then we come on to RGT85. So he'd put out a tweet and a video going, just make an hour-long anime to finish everything where Rio and Landy face off. It isn't hard. James and I took offense to this, and we did a show all about it. And the title is Shenmue Has No Story, The Actual Facts and What Awaits in Shenmue 4.
Yeah. Kind of, I guess his goal was to rub people the wrong way to get views, and I guess it kind of worked on us.
It did work.
But I do feel like stuff needed to be told at this point, because again, like we'd done previously with that other show, Matt, where we went through all the story beats that still need to be resolved. I think having a show that it in itself as a little bit of a summary and still came to an hour in length just sort of shows you that there's a lot more than what would be an anime episode, like a 25-minute show or an 1 hour anime show. It's not going to cut the mustard, is it?
No, absolutely not even close. So check that one out. Bit of sensationalism in there, but you know what, it needed to be done. Moving on, next interview I did was with Andy Hughes, who created the Samurai Boy album back in the day. It was years and years ago that was created. I got him on the show for half an hour. interview to talk about the album creation there and all of that. Then we're coming to the end of, I guess, the end of season 2, but we've still got 4 episodes to cover. So the first one is Shenmue's Reception, which was season 2, episode 17, where we look at the reception to Shenmue in the media and everything it did there, which was a real good deep dive into actually how revered this game was when it came out.
Yeah, it sounds like we started all the way back from Project Berkeley days and sort of got people's feelings and emotions at the time for this upcoming game, and that was especially evident at like the Shenmue premiere event. And I think we found a couple of little bits of like what some of the fans were feeling at the time after that show, how excited they were at Shenmue, and then obviously we talked about Shenmue 2, Shenmue 3. So yeah, really interesting show. If you're looking for something where you want to see what fans were thinking throughout the years about these upcoming games at the time, definitely check this one out.
And then we move on to a love to hate episode. So basically, all very, very similar to the sort of the Media Madness show that we did. We dive into a load of the media stuff around Shenmue 3, Shenmue 4, Jeff Gersman as well. We talk about
Yeah.
him, which was interesting, and just some very interesting perspectives on Shenmue at the time. There's that AEW sign as well, if you remember, where that guy put, "Oh, Shenmue 3 was a waste of time and money, game delayed attraction." Now, I did speak to the guy actually about it, but yeah, none of that was particularly helpful. Talked about Shenmue 3 failing, so I had to then put up the presentation from Embracer Group to go, well, it didn't fail, probably didn't meet the expectations that they wanted, but it didn't fail, like, as in make no money. And there was all sorts of fun and games in there as well. We went on a bit of a rant, I think, more than anything
I think
else.
this is probably the most ranty episode that we've ever done, actually. And
Yeah.
I remember talking about like people getting angry at the Epic deal and they wanted it on Steam and all that sort of stuff. So there's a lot of things in there that I don't know, kind of anger over the years, how much like hate Shenmue gets unnecessarily, and like how that's sort of directed at Yu Suzuki as well at points, which I felt like it's kind of someone attacking a family member, isn't it? At that point, it's like,
especially when it's a load of it's sort of unfounded. I guess is the way I would look at it, which is a shame, really. But again, we did definitely go on a bit of a rant there, but a good rant all the way through. Next episode we covered was Shenmue versus Yakuza. So we had the help of Yakuza Fan, who is a website and Twitter account who is probably the go-to in the Yakuza community in terms of facts, figures, anything you need. He put together a nice sort of script of sales, background around the Yakuza series, which we could then compare to the Shenmue series, and actually why, to a point, I think Yakuza got the success from a business standpoint that Shenmue may not have done. But we don't sit there and go, Shenmue's better than Yakuza. We look at it on a very balanced, this is what Shenmue did, this is what Yakuza did, these are the sales, this is what happened. And we just talk it through, don't we, as to why it happened and potentially whether Shenmue could recover from something like that. But it was a good episode all the same, and not that typical just shout at Yakuza fans job. Both of us have played the games and we like them.
Yeah, we love the Yakuza series. I think this episode spawned from the previous episode where people were hating on Shenmue, and they always say that, "Oh, why play Shenmue when you can play Yakuza?" So I think that sort of allowed us to then move into this episode where we sort of compare the two games and the reasons why they can be considered two separate entities and why they both should be successful and not just one over the other.
Yes, absolutely. And then we come on to the Shenmue Dojo show, Shenmue Online History Christmas Special. So we go through Shenmue Online. Now, this was prior to Sheep finding that extra information on that Korean forum on stream a few years later, which I did a video on. And we go through essentially Shenmue Online, its history, a little bit about Adam Dory's article at the time, and we go through into some of the history around that as well. So it's quite a nice,
good episode, that one actually.
There.
I think I even found some like stuff from a forum from back in the day about people talking about the game at the time.
Yes,
so,
you did.
Yeah. So if that's interesting to you, you want to learn a bit more about Shenmue Online, that is the show for you.
Then coming up, we had end of year review talking about Shenmue 4, Shenmue the anime, the 110 Industries rumors at the time. Yes,
this was the first review show we did, right?
Yes, the first end of year review show.
We
that
started doing
we
this
did.
like as a yearly thing then. I like this thumbnail.
It's quite good.
Mm.
Quite good. I like that. Following that, we did season 3, episode 1. Naturally, to follow on from Shenmue Online, Shenmue City. We go into the history there of Shenmue City, that mobile app that never made it out of Japan, lasted a year and disappeared, but actually had a lot of work done to it when we look at it properly.
Well, it's a game that was like live for a year, which seems crazy to me that there's not a great deal of information on that year of live service. But what we did find, if you're interested in that, again, this is probably the episode for you. We do a deep dive into everything that was available at the time. I think there was like a press conference with Segata Sanshiro, that guy, whatever his name is. Is it like Hiroki Fukuoka or something? I don't know. Forgot his name, but that guy, you know who I'm talking about. But yeah, we watched all of that as well in this, I think, and sort of reacted to it potentially.
Yes, that sounds about right there. It's a good show. And then next one came up, we did a bonus show 1 year later talking about the anime. So we moved on from a year. The anime at this point hadn't been cancelled. Suffice to say, we found that out very much later that year. We do a review of the anime from a year on. It almost served as sort of the review that we never did at the end of it, because we were just knackered at the end of doing all those streams and everything.
Yeah, that's true, actually. So we give our thoughts and feelings on the anime, and I think maybe they're more like better produced thoughts and feelings because it had been a year. So you're able to give like an honest opinion on it looking back.
Yeah, which I think was quite cool all the same there. Then, again, quite a good episode here. Shenmue 4 Room 101, and Titch was on this show. Basically, we went through Shenmue 3, what we'd keep, what we'd bin, and what we'd improve.
Yeah, this was like an idea I came up with because I used to watch the Room 101 back in the day with my dad, show that was on like English TV. Essentially that, in a nutshell, that they'd bring something onto the show, sort of like show and tell, and then people would argue whether or not it was something that should exist in the world still or not. So we kind of played that game with Titch and had a really fun episode about like all of the new features that were included with Shenmue 3 and which we would keep or bin for Shenmue 4, I guess.
Yeah, which
we're kind of doing a lot of these sort of getting guests on actually at this time. I know it's like the next few episodes we've got a few guests, so this season 3 is quite a nice one, I think.
Yeah, it's different, I think, in that sense, but it sits in really nice, I think, with the others that we've done. So then coming up, we do Shenmue Dojo show, the beta overview, season 3, episode 3. We got Stu from Shenmue Musings on to talk about the Shenmue betas, what it was leading to, what they were teasing, all the information that was available at the time. Again, there's stuff in here that I'd forgotten about, but when we looked at it, I was like, bloody hell.
Some gold dust in here. I think we watched like one of those really bad quality premiere videos that showed a load of beta footage, and there's like some incredible reveals in this beta footage, especially through the eyes of like Shenmue Musings, who is such a Shenmue database in his head that he's able to give his insight into a lot of this beta footage. And then I think we even went all the way up to the Shenmue 2 Game Jam beta prototype as well. So we cover pretty much the whole period of time from the first game to the second game betas. Absolutely. I don't know if we talked about Shenmue 3 at all, but maybe.
Possibly. I think there's some Shenmue 3 footage in there that I can see.
Okay.
Next up, I revived the interview series. It had been a while at that point in time. I interviewed someone called Bailey Caldwell, who was a new Shenmue fan, was posting his experiences on the Shenmue 500K and quite liked it. But obviously, at the time, people were trying to take a massive dump on Shenmue 3 and was getting shouted down about it. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to get him on the show and let's talk this through. And I asked the question, is Shenmue 3 a bad game? He felt not. But that's a very interesting insight from a new fan, because I think old school fans give Shenmue 3 a bit of a harder reception than new fans do. And I think you noticed that with streams you've watched as well, James. It's very different.
A lot of people quite enjoy the game, don't they? That you're watching. It's refreshing, actually.
So there we go. There. Then coming on, we do a Shenmue show and tell. So we got Casey on from the Sega Lounge, and we just gush over Shenmue,
basically. Yeah. I think what I did was I asked everyone to pick like their favorite 3 areas from each of the games, and just sort of say why, I guess, like you would do in a show and tell, like introduce my favorite areas, this part of the harbor or this shop or something. I can't quite remember, but I remember it being a really good show, that one with Casey.
Yeah, I do. We have to get Casey back on at some point.
Yeah, man, definitely. We need when we start getting back into the rhythm of the shows, we're going to get a few more guests on, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Then we come on and do a bonus show episode, a review of Gamer's Journey, so the Shenmue documentary by Adam Scipione. We've had it in our hand, and we do ourselves a nice review of that, going through our thoughts, feelings, and everything else there. Great documentary. If you haven't seen it, you can actually watch it on YouTube for free now, so we'll make sure we pop the description below so you can check that out. Then coming on, we're on to our Kickstarter updates review series. So this is where we go through every Kickstarter update, season 3, episode 5. I think this took us about a year in the end to do.
Well, I think there's 130 something updates, so
that's a lot of updates,
a lot to get through. And obviously, me and you, Matt, we went pretty in depth in each of the updates as well.
Very, very in depth.
So this first part alone is nearly 3 hours. So strap in.
Brilliant. Then coming up, we did our first music special, the Shenmue 1 music special. So it's actually become a bit of a tradition of doing these shows now. Yep. So that was our first one of that. We go through our favourite tracks from Shenmue 1 and discuss them and everything else there. Next up, we then did a bonus show, a Q&A show. I put questions out to the Shenmue community to basically help us make a show. So we got questions from the community and we answered them in a video show there. Just having a look, see if I put the questions in the description. No, I did not. That's very helpful.
I think you showed them on the screen. So if you're watching the YouTube video, and obviously we probably read the question out and answer it. So
there's like questions like, what kind of Shenmue merchandise do you want made? Have we ever heard progress of the Saturn build? Is Yu Suzuki developing Shenmue 4? Would you keep it a secret if we knew? Well, of course we would if we knew about it. We couldn't. We'd end up breaking every relationship we've ever made if we told anybody what was going on, if we knew about it, wouldn't we?
Just looking at my hair, I forgot my hair was like, I don't know, emo style, I guess, back in those days. It's nice actually to get like a capture of my office at that period in time, because
when it was all like
that's like a distant memory now, but it looks sick. Just full of stuff.
Then coming on, we did again 2 episodes for the Kickstarter review, so parts 2 and part 3. I'll sort of swiftly go through those because we don't need to worry about them. It's the exact same format as the other ones.
Wrapped it up, didn't it? Part 3.
And then we've got a Christmas special. We've got George Kitchen on, which has become a bit of a tradition because he then did the following year as well for Radio Sega's Winterfest 2023. And this was talking about the Dreams of Saturn release, believe it or not. So it hadn't come out at this point. And we got George on to talk about that. Got your Christmas cracker jokes in as well.
Really good episode, this. In fact, I really like the 2 Christmas episodes that we've done with George so far, and hopefully we can do a third, time dependent, of course, because obviously we're all in 3 different time zones now, so it might not be as easy to do, but hopefully we can get that done, because obviously we want to talk about the upcoming Dreams of Saturn 3.0, which looks fantastic. Yeah.
And again, I'm going to make comment that actually I think over the course of this season, I think our editing got better again across
Definitely,
both the
man.
audio and the video. I think again we're more comfortable in the skins of what we're doing,
Yeah,
and I
I'd
think it
agree.
shows.
I think the videos were getting better. I think because we'd started, I don't know at what point, but we started to share the workload a little bit, hadn't we? So I was editing the
Yeah,
audio, and then you were editing the videos, and just gives you a bit more time to not
to
feel
nail
so
things.
rushed. Yeah.
And then the final episode of that year was Shenmue Dojo Show 2023 in review. So again, we did a review of the year around Shenmue, what had happened, what hadn't happened. Again, I'm looking at it. So we talked about Air Twister, Shenmue 4 and 0, that is Ezra Kobe interview that was talked about, Yu Suzuki being at Luca Games, Cedric tweeting, Gamer's Journey coming out, Shenmue's ranking best game polls, Dreams of Saturn, the new Energy New Era stuff that happened with Virtual Fighter 6 and everything else on the way potentially, and some final thoughts there at the end of it as well. So again, a real sort of good step back into the end of 2023.
Mm.
So that brings us on to season 4. So we're well into this. This is now, I think, 2024. So season 4, episode 1, chapter tiles, part 1, GDC 2014. And we brought on Stu again for this one. So we had a quick look. I say a quick look, quite an in-depth look, actually.
Quite a long loop.
2 hours 45, going through the GDC talk, going through all the slides, and really sort of diving into the early days of Shenmue, when it was Virtua Fighter RPG, development on the Saturn, the move to Dreamcast, and everything else in between. James, any thoughts there?
Yeah, this was a good start to the season, I think, season 4, because it was nice to get Stu back on, but then we sat down and watched this GDC, like the famous one that was like, obviously where Yu Suzuki behind the scenes was probably talking about Shenmue 3 with Mark Cerny, so it was nice. A lot of old footage and the original chapter tells that we look at to this day in awe because of all the story things that are going on in each of those chapter tells. And it was just great to just go back through this and have a little chat with Stu about it, thoughts and feelings. Obviously, that's kind of like a time capsule moment in it in 2014.
Yeah.
So almost like a 10 years on, look back type of deal.
Yeah, and little did we know at the time in 2014, that was quite a big moment for Shenmue's franchise. Obviously, the discussion started happening behind the scenes around the Kickstarter, around that GDC. So it almost had a bit of a double whammy effect. I'd love them to do one for Shenmue 2. They haven't done it. I know he promised one years ago. And actually, I'd love one for Shenmue 3 eventually, just to sort of talk about the differences in development, the challenges and everything else. I have mentioned it to Wisenet before, but I think it's one of those things that they probably won't touch. Certainly Shenmue 3, they won't touch that until perhaps the series is finished. But Shenmue 2, I don't see why they couldn't do at some point.
Shenmue 2 would be really interesting as well, because he'd go through the story of like them working probably on Shenmue 2 before Shenmue 1 in a way.
Yeah.
Which would be like really interesting to see how they juggled the resources, then fleshed out Shenmue 1, but then maybe we'd see more of the Sega Saturn version in this sort of GDC type of show. If Yu Suzuki was to do one on Shenmue 2, it would be really interesting to see actually how far they got. Obviously, we've seen all the way up to the end of Guilin by the looks of it on the Saturn, but there's a lot of material in there that he could cover. And then it morphing from that beta footage that we saw of Shenmue 2, where they sort of looked like they remade the entire Aberdeen area.
Yeah.
And then you've got Kowloon and obviously the Guilin portion. There's like so much content there and artwork and documents and stuff that he could show. It would make an absolutely amazing historical piece type of show like this original one was, this post-mortem.
Absolutely love it if they went and did that. So yeah, Wisenet, if you're listening, fancy doing one on Shenmue 2, feel free. That'd give us content forever, I reckon, as well.
When's the next GDC?
January 2026, I want to say, but I could be wrong on that. I haven't checked, but it does sound around January time.
Maybe a bit too soon to hear this. And
Consumer Expo, I can't remember. I might be thinking Consumer Expo. Either way, it's 2026 now.
yeah, for sure.
Cool. Okay, so then it's the next episode, season 4, episode 2, chapter tiles card part 2. So this is, I guess we broke these down into 2 shows just because of the sheer volume of them. Shenmue Master interviews we did 2011 to 2016. So for any of those who may have not come across this before, Shenmue Master has a series of interviews on its website with Yu Suzuki, all about Shenmue, talking through the early days, past and present, and even sort of leading into some of the development of Shenmue 3 itself. And actually, there's some spoiler-heavy content in here, which if you're not paying attention, you'll miss it. But actually, when you pay attention, you think, ooh, there's definitely some spoilers in here.
Yeah, these interviews blew our minds back in the day when Yu Suzuki was coming out with all these story things that we've been craving for, and then, dropping more, like you say, spoilers about the structure of the 4 leaders. So we learned a little bit about the names like Gentai and Tentai, and some of these things that they uncovered in these interviews we still talk about, like I say, today, which is why we covered these. So we're talking about the chapter tiles and some of the later chapters. A lot of this stuff is going to come up in there, I'd have thought.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, this as I said, shows a lot of history, a lot of spoilers, and it's probably, like you said, some of the most in-depth interviews around the series and the content that we've got. I think dovetailed a little bit by the interview that you ended up doing in 2024, which we'll come on to a bit later, because I think some of the stuff covered in the Shenmue Master stuff is given a bit more context in the interview you did at Wisenet, but we'll come on to that in a bit.
Yeah.
So moving on, there's a little bonus show here. What we hate about Shenmue. Now this was a spoof. This was an April Fool's spoof, and it was quite funny actually. Surprisingly, did quite well in the view count as well. It was one of those, I think, we just thought, sod it, let's just have a bit of fun.
And people didn't really kick off. I thought maybe people might kick off about it. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But everyone got the joke, I think.
The reaction was far better than I anticipated. So there we go. So 4 minutes and 12, the shortest show on record by some distance.
We'll never do a show that short.
No, I doubt it. And then next one's a bonus show, Mirror Plans Mystery. So this links to a very rare Shenmue, I think Shenmue 2 t-shirt, in fact, which has got some signatories of the mirror plans on the back of it. And we had a look at linking this to the mirror plans in Shenmue 2, Shenmue 3, and also what it could mean sort of going forward. And I know there's some dodgy translations out there as well, which we've managed to sort of unpick, sort out, and hopefully lay a couple of myths to rest on that as well, James.
Yeah, it was a good show, that was, because behind the scenes I was speaking to Switch, obviously, who translated some stuff in Japanese, and I was also speaking to Chow, who was translating some of the Chinese kanji and what it might mean. So yeah, if you're really interested in the mirror plans specifically, we did kind of uncover some really interesting information about what Mr. Yuan, or the Emperor, I guess, who
Yes.
originally, made those plans, wanted from not only the mirrors but also the huge stone carvings. There's a little bit of information about that if you're interested.
Yeah, check that out. It's good, half an hour digest video there as well, sort of thing, which is good for us.
I'm surprised they turned that into a t-shirt as well.
Yeah. I'm random, very random, but it's a t-shirt I've never seen anywhere apart from you having it.
Yeah, that's
there
true.
We go. Moving on then, I guess this feeds in quite nicely to each other a tiny bit here. Shenmue Dojo Show, Season 4, Episode 3, Chapter Tiles Card, Part 3, so the interviews from 2017 to 2019 from Shenmue Master. Again, just finishing that off. I should have said, actually, Stu joined us for all three of the chapter tile shows, and again joined us on this one to go through the final interviews there. This then was right in the midst of the Shenmue 3 development and what we could expect within the game itself. And I think a couple of interviews just after Shenmue 3's development finished. Again, another 3-hour epic. But one, again, I think if you listen to all three of those shows together, you can see the whole history, the mysteries around the whole story, the development. And I think it's a real good stop tour of everything from Shenmue's history up to sort of modern day outside of the anime, don't you think?
Yeah, just make sure you've got no other plans for that day that you listen to all three in a row, because you're talking about 9 hours worth of content there. But I agree, it's, if you've ever been really interested in those chapter tile artworks, this is literally the most thorough account of all 11 chapters that you're going to get, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. So well worth checking those out. And as you say, James, you're going to need a good day to get through all of them. And if then you really want to add something on and add basically another bit of a day to it, Season 4, Episode 4 was the show we did on the Yu Suzuki Shenmue interview from May 2024. So for context, James and Switch from Phantom Riverstone went over to WiseNet in Japan and conducted an in-person interview with Yu Suzuki himself. It is, in my view, the most in-depth interview we've had on Shenmue content for many, many years. At this point in time, I think stands as the only in-depth interview around Shenmue that's come out from Yu Suzuki since as well. So it is very much the last real look we've had at Shenmue's development plans in the future, and this really, I think, kicked us off in terms of the tweetathons, and the Times Square thing and everything else. James, I mean, talk about this, because this is very much your baby, this one.
Yeah, I mean, everything you said there is pretty much spot on, Matt. It's this, we got word, obviously, from Yu Suzuki himself that they're looking for a publisher at the time. So that is why we've sort of targeted in our tweeting on the 4th of each month, like loads of different potential publishers, I guess. And we sort of mix them up each and every month, right, to try and spread awareness that Yu Suzuki wants a publisher for Shenmue 4. That's sort of the basis of it. But yeah, we went through loads of story content from the first two games, like questions, like we said, were piggybacking off of those Shenmue Master interviews back in the day. We looked at a lot of story content and beats from Shenmue 3 and some sort of behind the scenes discussions about how Shenmue 3 was made, and some of the trials and tribulations, I guess, that are included in that, with the story and the consistency. And we're trying to ask questions in a nice way, at like, continuity wise, what does this mean about the mirrors and all that sort of stuff. And Yu Suzuki actually answered pretty much every question we had for him, so we learned a lot of really interesting stuff about like an extra leader that no one knew about and things like that. And then we talked a little bit about Shenmue 4, Air Twister, future plans. So this was prior to Steel Paws. So they were
Mm.
talking about being close to releasing a game or announcing another game. So that would have been Steel Paws, I guess, at the time.
Yeah, it would have
And
been.
then we even talked about the anime, you know what I mean? It was like a lot of stuff that hadn't really been covered in interviews. As massive Shenmue fans, we were just unleashing a ton of questions on Yu Suzuki, and it was amazing. I'm surprised he gave us that platform and the amount of time that he dedicated to it. And then he even took us for lunch at a nearby restaurant, and we even got to like ask a few more questions there, which is where some of the stuff about his China research days, some of the answers there came from that little discussion we had at the
Mm.
meal, and then we were showing off some upcoming fan projects. So this was like just before Shenmue World Issue 3 was even a thing. So I was showing him some pictures of what I'd been working on. We were showing him some pictures of Reclaiming the Path from George and Joe Kitchen. We were showing him the Chobu-chan virtual pet game. And, just his face lighting up at just talking Shenmue and, gushing about Shenmue. It was lovely. It was honestly the best day of my life.
Brilliant. I mean, yeah, you summed that up perfectly. I think it was, as I say, and I stand by it. It's one of the most in-depth interviews we've had on Shenmue and across all the series, the history, the past, present, and the future, for a long, long, long time. It really did, I think, kick the community into gear, and I mean that in the nicest way possible. I think it gave us that shot in the arm we needed to sort of really understand where we were with Shenmue 4 and what needs to happen for it to happen. Now, obviously, Shenmue 3 Enhanced has been announced since then, which again has been a really nice boost. But I think without this interview, I think we'd still be in a bit of a period of limbo. I mean, I guess we are in some aspects anyway, but the community united and rallied behind it, and it gave us the impetus to really push on. Very shortly after this, we did the Times Square stunt that went viral, and I think ever since then, I think it's been full steam ahead with the tweetathons. We've been trending for nearly 2 years now. So without that, though, I don't think any of that happens.
That's massive, isn't it? That.
It's a massive, massive sort of marker. Obviously, it could end up leading to nothing. I understand that, but certainly where we are at the moment, I don't think we'd be where we are without that. So that is vitally important. And go and check it out because the amount of history and insight in there is brilliant. I'd love to do a follow up at some point. I'm sure Yu Suzuki's probably fed up with us by now, but we'll have to
It's
see.
it is one of the plans for the future. Especially now I'm on the ground in Japan.
Yeah.
Hopefully, like facilitating something like that may be easier. It's just finding the right time, and obviously, I'm sure they're really busy thinking about Shenmue 3 Enhanced and stuff like that. So you don't particularly want to interfere too much, if that makes sense. I want to have that feeling that okay, it might be ready now to see if we can do something again like this.
Yeah, which would be great. So check that out if you haven't done so already, guys. Then next up, I revived the interview series. Shenmue Dojo interviews Pandemonium. So we're looking here at what happened to Shenmue on the Sega Saturn. So Pandemonium, for those of you who aren't aware, is a guy who goes out basically in the middle of reviewing every Sega Saturn game in the United States. But I guess he's more well known for doing his sort of epics on Virtual Cop. I think there was a 4-hour epic on Virtual Cop, basically a documentary on the whole game, which was bloody brilliant. And also did a Sega Rally epic, which came in at about 3 hours as well. Very knowledgeable on the Sega Saturn, knows his stuff. Part of the Shira Media Group, who do a load of Sega Saturn work as well. And we talked about the development on the Sega Saturn. He was of the opinion, and I can understand where he's coming from, that the Shenmue footage we had was running on a base Sega Saturn, which just blew my mind. Absolutely blew my mind. You were getting that out of a base Saturn because of the way the developers were talking about the original development, then shortly going over to whatever the souped up Saturn was, or that I think he called it a Saturn 64X or something, very similar sort of boost like the 32X was to the Mega Drive, and then the transition to Dreamcast. It's 40 minutes, great interview, and Pandemonium was brilliant. I love his stuff anyway, so I was really pleased to get him on the show. Any thoughts on this one?
Yeah, no, it was just really interesting. Like you say, been a little bit of a hiatus interview wise, so getting someone back on the interview side of things is always great. There's some real fascinating stories out there still left to be told. So
Yeah.
obviously, hopefully you can get some more interviews sorted down the line. But yeah, really good discussion with Pandemonium, and very interesting to consider what may have been going on with the Saturn and whether or not Shenmue could have run on the Sega Saturn. I guess we did later find out they did have a build running on it, right? So
Yeah. So I think again, if this is in the basement of Sega or somebody's got it in there in the basement and on a disc and wants to send it to me, I'll be very happy. But we'll see on that one. So then moving on back into the mainline show, season 4, episode 5 and episode 6, I guess sort of linked together. So the Kickstarter updates part 4 and also part 5 finale.
did we say that we actually completed this when we were talking about the last one? So
We
I
may
think
have
if you
done.
go all the way back to season 3, episode 8, we were doing part 3 of the Kickstarter updates, and we may have said within this show that we wrapped up talking about the updates. But yeah, actually I'd forgotten that we took maybe like a year
It took about a year to do
get
these.
back to it. So yeah, that just shows how many Kickstarter updates there was.
It's like 130 something. I can't remember now. It was a lot.
Definitely in the
was-
130s.
It was a lot. But again, if you want an in-depth look at every Kickstarter update and our thoughts on it, that is the series to look at. You are going to need a day though to go through all of them because there's 5 episodes and there's about 2 to 3 hours per episode. So yeah, you're going to need about a day to go through that. So, but again,
easy.
You can do that. Everyone can do that now.
Light listening, easy listening. That was it. Innit?
Just listen to it at work. You'll get through most of it. So then next up, Shenmue 2 music special. So season 4, episode 7, which I guess is now a bit of a tradition of ours to go and do a music show. Quite a long one, 2 hours 50. Looking at this, but we just played all our favorite tracks from Shenmue 2 and just gushed over the music in that game. Great show, great music, and yeah, go and check that out if you haven't done so already. Then coming on, Shenmue Dojo unboxing. We popped this in the podcast because we did this together in person. So James brought over all the premiere items that he had in like easily accessible. I had a load of stuff on my shelf, so we sort of put them together. I mean, James has them anyway, but just saves him fishing them out to go through all of the Shenmue premiere merch items from the 1998 premiere. James, I mean, this is great to see everything, but man, there was a lot of stuff.
There's just so much stuff that they released at the time, obviously, I guess, to market the game even before the game was a thing, really. So people on the day had only just found out what Shenmue was, and then there's all this merchandise that you can buy. But yeah, it's like great to be in person, Matt, and going through all that stuff with you. We did a little bit of a recount of the history, so that's why we decided to turn this into a bit of a podcast show, because although it probably is more beneficial to watch the video version so you can actually see the item we're talking about, there's a lot of good information in there about the premiere event, about the types of merchandise that were available, and the prices I think we covered as well.
Yeah.
And a good watch. Try and dig out the YouTube version of that one if you're listening to audio only.
Yeah, absolutely. And some of the prices were insane. You look at some of the items and what they go for now. Like some of those pens are like £4. Yeah. Whereas now you're looking at like £80 and
if you could hop in a time machine, you'd just buy it all, wouldn't you?
Yeah, buy like 10 of everything, and then just
retire.
sell all the rest of it. Keep one set sealed and keep one for your shelves. But hey ho, we didn't know at the time. And also, I think I don't know about you, but like, I didn't discover sort of shopping on Japanese sites until much later. Before and the boom had already started. So had I discovered it earlier, I might have got some of my stuff a bit cheaper.
Agreed, yeah. So if you were looking a decade or two ago, the stuff was a lot easier to get a hold of, but now it's in collectors' hands, so it's almost an impossible task these days, I'd say.
Yeah. Did you get the odd one? Absolutely, but it's definitely a lot harder than it was.
I've never seen a Rio poster.
No, oddly. How strange, the main character, and nobody's ever seen a Rio poster, and it exists because we've seen them in the photos, but
so send one our way.
Wild. Yeah, by all means, because we've never seen one in the wild ever, which is very weird. Next up is a bonus show. We talk about Shenmue 3, Shenmue 4, in-games and the future. So this came off the back of the in-games announcement that they were taking over the publishing rights to Shenmue 3. So obviously we didn't know what they were doing with Shenmue 3 at this point, but we decided to do a bonus show talking all about what they could do with Shenmue 3, whether they could take on a Shenmue 4, and just the future of the series. Again, this was like a real nice shot in the arm for the community. Very popular, a great show to go and do, and I think it just reinvigorated a lot of people, I think it's fair to say.
Yeah, it's crazy looking at it that this is like nearly a year ago now.
I know.
It doesn't feel that long ago to me, but yeah, wow. So if you're interested in, again, a sort of time capsule thing from a year ago of what we were thinking about this in-games takeover type of thing for Shenmue 3 and the potential for more, I guess, collaborating with in-games, I guess. I mean, Yu Suzuki already had with Air Twister, so the relationship was already formed. So yeah, interesting to see what the future holds, I guess.
And we just have to wait and see now, don't we, at this point in time? But hopefully In will announce something soon and let us know what the hell's going on. But yeah, we'll wait. We're patient. We'll leave that there. Then coming on, season 4, episode 8. This is the Shenmue premiere event 1998. So I guess a little bit off the back of the unboxing. I think we sort of had a plan to do this at some point, but the unboxing may have kicked our asses into gear a little bit. We go through the Shenmue premiere event in great detail, 3 hours, 4 minutes and 41 seconds. So we watch all the footage, we go through all the website stuff, even trying to look at some of the images in those little letterbox forms and trying to work out what the hell was going on there. And also at the end of this show, as I think you'd been to Japan or just come back at this point in time, you'd been to the Pacifico and taken modern shots of it. So actually we did like nice comparisons between where Yu Suzuki stood in that footage and then what it looks like now. And actually it hadn't changed all that much.
No, and still to this day it looks the same. I obviously I'm living in Yokohama at the moment, so I've passed the Pacifico a couple of times since, and it's just amazing to see this event, stadium type of place, arena, still sat there, almost like untouched from 25 years. And yeah, you reminded me there. That was part of. I don't know if we did that on the interview day, but definitely last year when I was hanging around with Switch, we went all around the Pacifico and took photographs and tried to get some shots from the angles that you can see in this footage. So there's like the under passage where the taxi would have pulled up, where Yu Suzuki got out. We got photos of that, and then sort of where potentially the window he was looking down, or the line of people queuing up. Got photos of that. Even took a photo inside the window, and the wall pattern, like the picture on the wall, this bluish sort of abstract sort of artwork on the wall, still there from 25 years ago. So it was like peering into something that I don't know, that could have been. I mean, it was, but like it's difficult to describe. But looking at something that existed 25 years ago, thinking of what would have happened in this place. So yeah,
magic,
amazing,
absolute magic. Yeah, check that out, because again, I think it's probably the most recent deep dive that's been into the Shenmue premiere. I'm told somewhere there is like the raw footage kicking around at Sega, so I'd love access to it. I have asked people to try and get it me, but apparently there's a lot of resistance to it for some reason. I don't know why. Like this is a point in history. Just put it on YouTube, for God's sake, you know?
Yeah, I mean the footage we've got is decent, but if there's a full HD version out there or something, or whatever, it would be so much better to get that.
Yeah, just from a preservation standpoint, if anything, just to make sure that people can actually see this, because obviously some of the footage is fine, but other bits, because it was probably shot in 240p, you can't really see anything.
Yeah, that's true. There's like two versions, isn't there? So there's like one that was released on a TV that's in better quality, and then there's one that's like 2 hours long or something. That's like the whole event kind of covered, the orchestra, and that is like shocking. It's like got some beta footage as well in there that you can barely tell what's going on.
Yeah.
So
we'll see. We'll see on that one. If anybody at Sega's listening, let us know, because I'd love to get that out and put it on YouTube, because I think it needs to be preserved, because at the end of the day, and we'll talk about preservation very, very shortly, actually, this is the sort of thing that gets lost and actually shouldn't be. It's quite easy to digitize this and get it online, but I'll get off my high horse on that now. next up, the Christmas special, Dreams of Saturn 2.0 with George Kitchen. So George came back on the show and went through all the massive update to Dreams of Saturn. So this is where he brought the harbour into play and a new story for that as well. And we had George on the show for a good couple of hours talking through Dreams of Saturn, some Christmas cracker jokes, and just getting ourselves into the Christmas spirit. This was prior to the release of Dreams of Saturn 2.0. We did a stream very shortly after. Great show. Having George on again was great. I think we're intending to, hope he doesn't know this yet, try and get him back for
Dreams of Saturn 3.
Yeah, for Dreams of Saturn 3. If we can make that work as well with the time zones. But again, I love the Christmas shows.
Yeah, me too. I think this is potentially my favourite show we've done, maybe. It's up there with one of the top ones anyway. Yeah, it was such a fun show to listen back. It's like such a fun show to listen back. Gets you in the Christmas spirit as well, which is I guess good this time of year. We're fastly approaching Christmas again, so if you want to get into this Christmas spirit, maybe check out this Christmas special.
Scary how quickly that's coming round. And then I guess talking about end of year, we then do our bonus show for the end of year review 2024 and the hopes for 2025. So obviously in games and Shenmue 3's come up. We talk about Times Square. We also talk about the limited run game Shenmue merch, which was announced at the time. And if you're me and ordered everything together, including the cat, are still waiting for it. It's not due till February 2026. I'm a little bit upset, but I'll wait. I'll be patient. So that's just our thoughts and feelings for 24 into 25. And
well, even me, Matt, that's ordered things separately. I've only got the t-shirt, the hoodie, and the skateboard. So I think they haven't really sent a great deal yet. They've sent like some people that have had like the Dreamcast cards. They've had like the key ring, maybe, or the pin.
Never seen the coin as well been out there.
Yeah. So I'm not getting those separately for some reason. I'm getting them as a big order. So I think maybe if you pay for shipping separately with limited run games, when they've got enough of the order, they send one and then they send the second one. I don't think they send everything in separate shipments, unfortunately.
No, which is a bit of a shame, but it is what it is, I guess.
I'm happy to wait. I'm not bothered, but it's just like, say, we're waiting on that kit, and I think that is what's holding everything up.
It is, and then they're going to announce Shenmue 2 merch.
I'm surprised they've not done any Dreamcast collab type of announcement since. It's been a good few months now, right? Like the last one was Choo Choo Rocket, I think. Something like
it's been a while. It's been a while, hasn't it? I don't know why. We'll have to see. Anyway, then, so moving on, we come on to season 5, so the current season. So this is season 5, episode 1, The Secrets of Shenmue, where we go through the 15 secrets of Shenmue in an interview conducted by the Japanese Dreamcast magazine back in 1999, with all sorts of interesting tidbits of information from Yu Suzuki about Shenmue before its release. Some good little bits in here, and actually the insight into what they were thinking to what we understand now, and making those links is quite cool.
Yeah, I like the show. I like the thumbnail as well. He uses
Yeah, I
Yakubi's
do.
finger on his lips.
That's quite cool.
Yeah, I think you can definitely tell we started to get much, much better at the thumbnail game.
Yeah, I absolutely would agree.
Some of the ones in season 4 I'm particularly proud of, actually.
Yeah, some good
But
ones in
then
here.
some in season 5 as well, which are pretty good.
So then coming on, we've then got a bonus show. This was a big one for us. So huge discovery. I was going for some clickbait here, I think, with this one. Unseen
like
Shenmue renders. We show them all. Shenmue Dojo show bonus episodes. So for those of you who have followed us, and for those who haven't, this goes back to January, where, well, it was actually before that, but we found them slightly before and then did the show. So, for those of you who know what Sega Retro is, it's a massive plethora of Sega information. There's loads of it on there, stretching back decades and across a million IP. So anyway, we're looking sort of into that. Now, I should wind back a little bit, actually. We'd, at this point, already managed to get a hold of the Shenmue artworks that we then released later on in the year. And as part of that, people went down a rabbit hole and said we looked into some of the artists that were named on it. Hideki Kawabata was the name that was mentioned. So going into sort of Sega Retro, I think it was David or Chow, I can't remember who mentioned it, said, hang on a second, go to Hideki Kawabata's website and have a look what's on there.
Chow that was, yeah.
And then on this website, nobody had ever reported on this, was about 100 unseen character renders, area renders from the Shenmue development that Hideki Kawabata had done. So we're talking renders, Dreamcast renders like Elder Year and Yanglang, early footage or shots of the like karate tournament, like in terms of the arena, early shots of Hong Kong. Man, this was just a deep dive into some unseen shit that was right there. It's hidden in plain sight. How?
Yeah. No idea. And then obviously this was the discovery of a brand new character called Mao.
Yes.
Who we had that incredible artwork of her and Ren. So it looks like she's some relation to Ren, whether that be a friend, like a past relationship or something, or part of a Mongolian tribe. And there's some shots of Ren in Mongolian attire as well.
Yep,
so so fascinating to think of what could have been. Obviously, this was Dreamcast models. So they had stuff like this produced for the Dreamcast, whether that was going to be a Shenmue 3 on the Dreamcast or maybe they were going to make Shenmue 2 even bigger. It just sort of blows your mind to think of the history involved. I'm looking at like a character model here of Mao from 1997. It's just insane.
Absolute madness. And actually, I think this prompted a lot of discussion, didn't it? This whole new character. And then when you look at the chapter tile with Niaowu, it was always felt that Shenhua was in there twice. But actually, one of those, I think, is probably Mao.
Agreed. Which is insane. That's crazy to think.
But because Adam Scipione released the high def version, so we could see that in clear as day. And I can't remember who said it on our Discord, but it made sense.
Yeah.
So, but
because it did always feel odd that there was two Shenhuas together, right?
And now this is obviously why, because it wasn't Shenhua, it was clearly somebody else. But again, this is sort of then leads into some of the other bits we'll come on to. But this was massive. Really good way to start the year as well. Like,
agreed. Yeah.
Massive plethora of stuff. So then coming on, we did season 5, episode 2, getting the band back together. So this is going through the Ezra Kobe interview after the Shenmue 3 release, looking back at the release of Shenmue 3, talking about the development, and also, funnily enough, some of the artworks that we managed to obtain. There's some of them on that desk. Not the exact ones, perhaps, but the sort of the theming and everything just proved the validity of the ones we ended up buying as well, which was mental. But it's a great interview into sort of the development of Shenmue 3, some of the trials and tribulations they had. And actually, if you watch this episode and also go to the Ryan Payton interviews, I think you get a whole picture of how Shenmue 3 came together.
Yeah, definitely. And this stemmed in a way from some blog posts on Phantom Riverstone. So it was like split into 3 parts. So we covered that, like you say, as well as watching the actual. Was it a video of Ezra talking to Thingy, or did it was just photos?
I think it was just photos and written from memory.
I could just picture in my head, like you say, like Ezra sat on the left, Yu Suzuki in the middle, sort of like the white room, kind of like the thumbnail actually.
Yeah,
So that's probably
yeah.
what I'm thinking of.
That sounds about right. So that was cool, and again, really good insight to Shenmue 3's development. Then here we go. This is where it starts getting interesting. We definitely went some clickbait here as well. Shenmue 4 auction artwork release and analysis. Shenmue Dojo show. So this was a bonus show. So for those, I mentioned this earlier, we then went out and released all of the Shenmue auction artworks that the consortium of us put together. So that was myself, James, Nathan, David, and Chow originally, although Chow then unfortunately ran into some issues and had to sell his portion back. So I think me and you got those in the end, didn't we, James?
Yeah.
So that is what it is. But we did a sort of series on the artworks going through everything. So we thought what was best off, and we were talking to Adam Dory about it, and this is prior to us releasing it, and basically saying, look, do the Shenmue 4 stuff first, because that's the stuff that's going to gain us the traction around it, and it absolutely did. And I'm looking at the thumbnail, and we're looking at the Cliff Temple, which is mental in
That is
itself.
crazy. Yeah, no, it was good advice really, because it also allowed me to then think about what could be a good way to display this information in a Shenmue 4 style. So we've got this fantastic page, which if it's not linked on the actual show, I'm sure it is, but I'll link it below in the description for this show as well. The Shenmue 4 specific portion just runs through all of the interesting artworks and profiles and stuff like that that we think could be related to a future event in Shenmue 4. So whether it's tied to Shen 4's powers, maybe it's a little bit more on the Aosun. Like Matt says, the Cliff Temple, where we're going in the future, this sort of temple area. Absolutely amazing to have this as like, this could be Shenmue 4 and beyond. So definitely check that out if you haven't, guys. I mean, the entire artwork collection is well worth looking at.
Yeah.
But specifically the Shenmue 4 stuff is like mind-blowing.
Yeah, absolutely insane. And everything is all online. So we've digitized all of the artworks. It can be downloaded as a zip file. So everything, including the Shenmue 4 stuff, is available off of the website right now. Probably devalues the actual copies that we've got. But frankly, I don't care. That's the whole point. It was preserving this stuff. I'm glad we got it, because had we not have done, I'd debate whether this would have seen the light of day. I really do.
That's it, Matt, right? Us going out to get these things, it doesn't really matter how much money it costs if we can afford it, because then when it's in our hands, we are going to digitize that for people to enjoy. Otherwise, like you say, it could just be sat on a shelf somewhere looking nice for the person that bought it and no one else.
Yeah, so we managed to get it and release that, and we've got other episodes on those as well, which I'll come on to in a minute. Then coming back to a mainline show, season 5 episode 3, Under the Influence of Shenmue. And this thumbnail is really cool actually, because James, you sort of took Niao-san's eyes, cyberpunked them up, and it just works beautifully. So we're talking here off the back of the BAFTA, the influence of Shenmue on video games, and essentially just why it's such an important title in video gaming history. And we talk through the cyberpunk influence, the Red Dead influence, and just what Shenmue managed to achieve, given that it got its BAFTA in that public poll, which I thought was a nice follow-up to all of that. I mean, anything to say on that, James?
Yeah, definitely. It's a good show, actually. If you want to see the influence, we tracked down a few people that had actually quoted Shenmue as influence in their games. So like David Cage a little bit, Steve Gaynor, Toshihiro Nagoshi-san, of Yakuza fame, citing Yu Suzuki as like one of his main influences for his career as a whole. So maybe not so much Shenmue, although I'm sure that went into the Yakuza games, but also we talked a little bit about Yu Suzuki's influence. So definitely check this one out, guys, if that's interesting to you at all. And there was a lot of discussion around, obviously, Shenmue winning that BAFTA. And I think we also talked about the appearance on ITV News as well.
Yeah, which is still mind-blowing to this day that happened this year. Mental. Then coming on bonus show again, Auction Artworks Part 2. So we look at all of the NPCs with Stu from Shen Musings. We go through all of the auction artwork NPCs. Again, there's a huge amount of stuff in here around the non-playable characters, their appearances, their changes, the fact their birthdays change more times than I can count. And was just a real good deep dive into the nitty-gritty, real sort of obscure information around the NPCs over that period of time of development in Shenmue's history. So that's a really good episode there.
Agreed.
Then we revive the interview series. So James and I teamed up to interview Chase, who was the media relations director during the Sega Dreamcast American launch, and was responsible for some of the questioning that went on around Shenmue during the sort of the US and Western, I guess, marketing and build up, I want to say, at the time. And it's a
Yep.
real good deep dive into what Sega were thinking, not just with Shenmue and the marketing for that, but actually how aggressively they marketed the Dreamcast and what they were trying to do with it. It's a really good interview, actually. I quite enjoyed doing it, and Chase was brilliant.
Yeah, Chase was fantastic. It is a really good interview, and the fact that we managed to record it in video format as well, so it sort
Yeah.
of stands the test of time in that degree, with obviously all the footage that we show on there. So Chase was like quite kind to let us have a lot of his slides that he's used in previous sort of game conference type of talks. So there's a lot of really good Dreamcast information, not just Shenmue related. Like he covers Space Channel 5, Jet Set Radio, Seaman,
Yeah.
and a few other titles like that. And it also allowed us to talk a little bit about some of the promotional merchandise that Chase was
Yes.
involved in. There was like a set of 4 or 5 trading cards, and just some other leaflets regarding like GDC and stuff like that was using some of the original Shenmue artwork, like Rio standing in the street or whatever, the Hong Kong backdrop type of thing. So yeah, some really, really interesting accounts from Chase of Sega Dreamcast American launch back in 1999, I guess.
Yeah, which is mental in itself, and it all sort of fitted in with the the Dreamcast and just off the back of the 25th of that, obviously
True.
26 years now. So
Good timing on us, on
yeah,
our part.
more luck than judgment, but no, hey ho. And then coming on, we did the bonus show for the auction artworks part 3. So this is all sort of miscellaneous artwork that we had in here, including some of those brilliant sort of watercolor sketches that were done of like Rio, Shenhua Joy, and others as well. Absolutely insane amounts of artwork in here. Again, all downloadable, all available. Go and check those out if you haven't done so already. Again, you're going to need probably half a day to go through all 3 of those shows, but well worth it if you're new, especially if you're new to the series and want to know some of the history. It's definitely a good place to go as well.
Yep.
Then another bonus show, we did a character tier list. This was taken from a stream we did a few months prior. Probably one of our more controversial shows, to put it bluntly.
Yeah, maybe.
But great fun to do a character tier list. We've been on about it for months and finally got round to doing it. I think people got upset we didn't put Goro in S, but frankly, I don't care.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah, Goro was a little bit too low, but our opinion, of course.
Yeah, people can make their own. It was all good fun, all the same. So there we go. Then coming on season 5, episode 4, off of the back of the Chase interview, we did a special on GDC 2000, which is mental in itself, talking about the reveal there around the Shenmue Western release and that Q&A that was held at GDC 2000. And I think this is where they first showed off the English dub, if I remember correctly.
I think you're right, mate. Yeah, so it was with Greg Thomas, who was the sort of the host guy, and yeah, they were breaking down the upcoming release of Shenmue, or yeah, it would be the upcoming release in America, because they were talking about how can Americans play it, I guess, was like sort of the prompt question. And obviously I'm sure they knew at the time that it was going to get translated, but yeah, like you say, they were started to show off some of the translated voice work of like Mark and stuff like that. So just a good watch, actually. Some interesting tidbits in there from Yu Suzuki as well.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant there. And then coming back, then another mainline show, season 5, episode 5, the Shenmue 3 music special. So in tradition, although hopefully we can get a Shenmue 4 music special one day, we finished off with the Shenmue 3 music special there, just going through all our favourite music from Shenmue 3. So I'd have to work out what our next music special will be for next year, because I'm not quite sure where we go from there.
I'm not sure. I was thinking we could either have a look at Shenmue Online's soundtrack proposed online, and do like a special around that, or maybe you'll go back to Shenmue 1 and do some more sort of deep cuts that we didn't pick. But if you want like our perfect Shenmue music playlists for each of the first 3 games, definitely go and listen to these Shenmue specials, because together the music in that is like probably the perfect Shenmue playlist.
Yeah, absolutely. I think actually you're probably right. Like underrated Shenmue tracks as a special could be one.
That would be a good one, yeah. Like some of the deep cuts from each of the three games we
Yeah.
could, yeah.
Yeah, just prompted a thought. Right
Mm,
then, I guess a bonus show here again. Shenmue 3 Enhanced interview with in games from Gamescom 2025. So we got the pleasure of sitting down with Felix and Heiko from in Games to talk all things Shenmue 3 Enhanced following the press release prior to Gamescom. They gave us a good hour and a half of their time to sit down and ask the questions that the community wanted. So James and I sat there, we took a load of the questions from the community and we asked them. And we got, I think, quite a good amount of answers from Inin, wouldn't it be fair to say?
definitely. I'm surprised actually. This feels longer ago now than August.
I know.
Doesn't this feel like sometimes you think of like things that you've done in the past and it's like, "Oh, I can't believe that was a year ago, like the yin takeover kind of thing. But this, I can't believe this was only like 2 to 3 months ago because this feels ages ago now, this Gamescom. But such a great chat with Felix. Felix is amazing. We've kept in touch and
Yeah,
such a nice bloke. And yeah, he gave, I think, suitable answers for the time. Obviously, they couldn't reveal too much.
no,
This is
quite.
kind of fresh information that they were giving out about Shenmue 3 Enhanced. So I think some of his answers to the tough fan community questions were good answers actually, because he's not giving too much away, he's not giving too many promises, he's not committing to anything, he's being very nonchalant about things, like things that they've got planned that they might not be able to do or they might be able to do. He's taking all of the fan feedback on board, which is always a positive. So every question that you guys sent to us is a thought now in his head for what they're going to do in Shenmue 3 Enhanced. So if a particular UI feature gets added or a particular control feature gets added or quality of life improvement that you suggested that we asked Felix, that could be because you asked that question.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And as I said, I stand by it. And I said it at the time, I said it again. Inin did not have to be as open about this as they have been with us. And it's what it has done, has I think created a lot of trust between Inin and the Shenmue community. That actually, I appreciate there's not been a lot since then, but when we get information, we know it's current, we know it's up to date, and we know they're being transparent, which I don't think we've always had from other publishers in the past. I won't name names, but you can see where I'm going. So again, it's great, and also I think it sort of then leads into the next or the most recent show, apart from this one, of course, which is season 5, episode 6, Gamescom 25, and Shenmue 3 Enhanced, where we talked about our time at Gamescom, which I'll be brutally honest was absolutely freaking mental. From
Mm,
A dot to getting everything out to the interview,
yeah,
absolutely insane how much work we had to get through when we were out there and talking about our hopes for Shenmue 3 Enhanced. And you can see on the thumbnail there the in games booth in the business area, just showing off Simon Sorcerer Origins, which I'm actually in the middle of playing at the moment, which is a good little game.
I've
Quite
been
enjoying
watching some
that.
of your playthroughs actually. It's quite a fun game. I kind of want to play it myself because I like these type of point and click adventure games like Broken Sword and yeah, you're doing decent actually. You're doing all right on it.
I need to sit down and finish that at some point, which I will do. And then obviously it's got the Shenmue 3 part on there as well. So again, it's our sort of deep dive into Gamescom, how it all came together, the interview, the questions, and just how things are shaping up for the rest of the year. And
Mm,
that's it. That is our last episode, apart from this one, of course. So when I said it was
yeah.
going to be an hour to an hour and a half, I lied, clearly, because we're now at 2 hours something, but that's
Are
always
we?
the way.
Oh well,
Yeah.
there's a lot to get through, I suppose. 100 episodes. If you
Man.
spend a couple of minutes per episode, well, actually, even like 1 minute per episode is 100 minutes, isn't it? Which is
Yeah.
getting close to 2 hours. So we've done quite well to get through all 100, I think. And hopefully, if you haven't experienced some of the back catalogue, maybe we've got the juices flowing. There's some episodes in there that you might consider listening to now, because we go out with an aim. I know we do tend to start with like a news section that's going to be outdated, but
Yeah.
for actually like the main discussion topic of the episode, we do try and aim to create something that can stand the test of time that you can go back and listen to, and what we talked about stood in that particular moment and is still something that stands today. So like for example, the Shenmue Online special where we did a big deep dive into the Shenmue Online, what was planned, what was coming, what didn't end up becoming, I guess.
Mm.
That's still the same today as it was then. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
definitely go
Yeah.
check out those types of episodes. We do try and design them to always be something that you can listen to regardless of time.
Yeah, and I just look
Just
back.
make time to listen to
Yeah,
them.
if you're listening to 100 episodes, I reckon you're going to need about 5 days. So
Probably longer than that,
probably longer.
Mm.
But hey ho, I mean it's mad, isn't it? I mean, obviously we'll close the show down now, I think. But looking back, I mean, I know we're recording this at episode 102 technically, but
Mm.
to have done over 100 episodes in a 5-year period is mad. I know the anime took a big chunk. Obviously, that was an insane time in itself. But when you look back and you just go, wow, like how has
Mm.
that come together? Because I think you mentioned it to me, and I'm going, there's no way, absolutely no way we've done that many. But actually, you don't realize where the time's gone. And you can see it's interesting going back. I'm sure you'll agree with me. You go back through the thumbnails, the production values, the editing values, everything around it. It's just got better and better, I think, as we've got more confident with it. I think the way we present stuff's got better because we've been doing this for 5 years. And I think you can see that progression, that curve from when we started to go, we're going, well, the fuck are we doing here? To actually, we have some modicum of idea of what we're doing now.
Yeah,
And it's nice to see all of that. It's nice to look back, actually.
definitely, I agree. And we've always put like a good amount of time into like the editing and the video creation. But like you say, because we've improved at those things, you could tell that I still probably take just as long to edit an episode, despite me having like shortcuts and I can do things
Mm.
better. But it's because I'm now putting more of the time that I've saved into making it sound even better beyond that. So we still probably put the same amount of dedication into each episode. And yeah, I'd like to think that we are getting a lot more proficient at doing a show now or a video. And I suppose that only bodes well for the future of the series that we're going to be doing coming into season 6
Season 6,
in a couple of
Christ.
months, which is quite a long running show at that point.
It is. It's yeah. Damn, it is. Season 6, Christ.
Like some
Christ.
successful TV shows don't get that many seasons.
Wow. Yeah. Shenmue anime didn't. That's for sure. But okay. So looking back, then I think that draws us to a close in terms of the look back at 100 episodes of the Shenmue Dojo show. We have got a couple more shows planned for the end of the year, all being well. We just need to make the timings work.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully, we can get that all sorted.
Just looking back at the 100, then, Matt, have you got like an episode that you're most fond of?
Oh, that's a hard one. That's a real hard one.
Like for me, I would say like the interview with Yu Suzuki is like one of my proudest moments, and that episode that we did covering that. But I again, like the Christmas specials, I think they're really good.
I mean,
Chase interview was a good one.
Yeah, looking back, I mean the Ryan Payton stuff, I love that. The Michael Huber interview, which it was just two fans geeking out. The timeline that we did, episode 5, season 1, I think that's a real good deep dive into the history of the community and how things came to be. That's really worth looking at as well for anybody who's sort of new to this. But we've covered such a broad range of topics as well. Like the anime, I interviewed Jason DeMarco. That's a good one. The Media Meltdown episode I find is just hilarious.
That's good, yeah.
Absolutely hilarious. Some of the stuff we pulled out there and went on a bit of a rant on. The beta stuff, yeah. And like you said, then the Shenmue 4 interview with Yu Suzuki, and actually the in interview that we did, I think is a really good one.
Definitely,
as well.
Yeah.
So,
I think any episode that we've had a guest on as well,
yeah, they
just makes it a little bit more special, stands out. Like Casey, Titch, Stu, of course, Peter. That episode we did with Peter is one of my favorites, actually.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
Brilliant. So the last thing for me to say is obviously thank you to everybody who has stuck with this show for the last 5 years and over the 100 episodes that we've obviously put out, because at the end of the day, we make this content for our enjoyment. We enjoy doing it, but to see so many people continually coming back, continually leaving comments and feedback and enjoying what we've put out over this period of time is great to see. And thank you to everybody who's taken the time, probably quite a lot of time actually looking at our shows, but I'll leave that there, to enjoy any amount of episodes of what James and I are putting out, and to just please rest assured that we are going to continue putting out shows into 2026, where hopefully we'll have Shenmue 3 Enhanced to talk about at this point in time.
Yeah, there's always something to talk about, despite Shenmue not being the most prolific type of series. We've always got something to discuss news-wise. I'm thinking, like you said earlier, with the limited run stuff, we can talk about their merch, we can talk about the Shenmue 2 line of merchandise, maybe there's some more figures stuff on the way, maybe we get Shenmue 3 Enhanced, we can talk about that, maybe we get an inkling about Shenmue 4, for example. There's always something to discuss, and then we've got history as well. So next episode, or the next few episodes, we want to have a look at some of the more recent Phantom Riverstone articles that go back in time as well. So there's, it's great to get this sort of content out there to you guys, and thank you, like Matt says, so much for listening and sticking by us with the show, with the website, with the videos. I mean, Matt's smashing it on the YouTube, so we just appreciate everyone who keeps coming back for more of our content, because that's, at the end of the day, we're doing it for ourselves, but if people are enjoying it alongside with us, that's massive, and we do both really appreciate it.
Thank you everyone for dropping in. So that closes down the show. Don't forget, you can find us on the various social media outlets. So if you're over on X, Shenmue_Dojo, you can find us on Facebook, Instagram, Shenmue Dojo, Twitch, Shenmue Dojo is on there as well, YouTube, Shenmue Dojo VOD, Blue Sky, ShenmueDojo.com. All information, interviews, links, media, and everything else in between is on ShenmueDojo.com, and we also have our forums there as well. If you want live in real-time discussion, then we do have Discord, which will be linked in the YouTube description below. James and I are going to be hopefully back with a show looking at the recent Phantom Riverstone interviews, as he just mentioned there, and hopefully with the Christmas special, if we can coerce George into coming back on the show. We might need to bribe him. We'll have to see on that one.
3 time differences.
Yeah,
it's going to be
3
a bit of a
times.
struggle.
We can do it. I think we've worked out we can do it. We can do it, but it's going to be tough. But other than that, guys, I'm going to close us down from there. Thank you to everybody who's supported us over the last 5 years. Here's to 5 more with Shenmue 3 Enhanced and hopefully Shenmue 4. But it's a goodbye from me.
It's a goodbye from me.
Take it easy, guys, and we'll see you soon.
Let's get sweaty. Take care.
Ah, look at the time. Look at the time.